What's more important, the journey or the destination? Actually, it's the company. Journey to Well, the podcast, was birthed with the intention to cultivate relationships. You can expect a plethora of conversations on nervous system regulation, breathwork, human design and astrology, cycle alignment, energy and spirituality, and honestly, so much more. But the heart of this community is to witness the journey back home to ourselves, rediscovering our innate power within. I couldn't be more honored to take this journey with you. Be well, my friend, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, welcome back to the podcast, Journey to Well. My name's Hannah. This is a really fun podcast because I feel like Dina and I are friends, even though we met like a month ago, but we've had so many meetups by this time of this recording. So we are talking all things tarot, numerology, human design, intuition, astrology. So we have a really fun conversation planned for you today. But of course, we have to do our intro first and get to hear who we're learning from. So this is Dina Berrin. She is an intuitive guide and life coach. She's also a 6/2 emotional manifesting generator. We did a really fun exchange that I gave her an intro to human design call, and she gave me one of her session calls, so tarot, numerology. So we get to talk all about that. But first of all, Dina, thank you so much for coming. And I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself. Where did this journey, it didn't start off with numerology and tarot. So where did this journey start, and where do you find yourself today? What's really exciting you about sharing your gifts and your talents and your knowledge?
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Hannah, so much for having me. And I'm going to try to give all of this information you asked for. So, yeah, at the heart of what I do is really helping people come home to themselves. And especially when life feels like they are at a crossroads. I feel as though a lot of people come to me when they are like, what next? And my journey has been anything but a straight line, like many people, I'm sure. And so I would say, my introduction to this whole world of astrology, numerology, tarot, all this started when I was a very young girl because my grandmother was very interested in astrology. And she would talk about people as if they were their astrological sign. So like they wouldn't say, oh, that person's being stubborn. She would say like, oh, well, isn't that a little bit of Taurus energy going on over there? Or
Oh,
like if somebody was hogging the spotlight, she's like, they got Leo in their chart, kind of thing. Or like she'd always, so I remember I was almost like walking around with the clipboard taking notes. Like every comment she'd say, I'm like, what does that mean? Kind of thing.
yeah.
So she kind of got the juices flowing, and I was always curious. Like have always been. I can not remember a time when people have not been interesting. I've always been curious about like what makes people tick, what makes them act the way that they do, react, think, do the things that they do. Why some people are not always honest, why some people, will be your friend to your face and then be a backstabber, why some people will just stab you right in the chest. It's like it's just very interesting to me what makes people tick. And so my grandmother started off, and I grew up in New Jersey where there were the boardwalk was there, and there were always palm readers and all these cool, people doing readings. And I would beg my mother, please let me get a reading. And she'd be like, keep walking. We are not stopping here, kind of thing. But what happened was I went to college, fast forward through time a little bit, and I have a degree in exercise physiology, and I was working in fitness, and I was working at a New York City huge hotel gym that was open 24/7.
Wow.
Now, hotels are 24/7, and gyms are usually like morning, lunchtime, evening, but at this gym, it just never closed, and it seemed like it was never ending, the things that were needing to be done there. And I was the manager there. But one thing I noticed is that my staff, whenever they left early or what I consider to be a normal time, they were always like, go, I have a class. And everybody like, oh, cool, great, go have your class, have a good class, we'll see you tomorrow. And then I would work like 14-hour days, and I would be like, I'm leaving, and they'd be like, half day. I'm like, okay, I got to get myself a class. And one night when I was leaving work, I saw a flyer for an intro to tarot class.
Mm.
And I thought, there's my class. So
Hmm.
I signed up, and from the first class, from when I walked in the room, it was almost like, the angels started singing and the room lit up,
Mhm.
and I just felt like I had come home to something. And the woman who taught my class was this magical woman. And I mean, a little bit intimidating. She
Mm.
was, strong, and she just knew stuff. And I thought to myself, after spending 6 weeks doing this intro with her, I want to be just like her.
Wow.
I want to be able to read like that. So this started my interest in tarot, and tarot has numbers, which brought in the numerology.
Yeah.
Tarot cards have astrological associations, which brought back, circling back to my astrological beginnings. And then there are symbols and colors, and it's funny. So then I started speaking at conferences, and conferences introduced me to other professionals. And one day I was having lunch next to another speaker. He was a palm reader, and he was telling me about this class that he was offering. And I'm like, I got to take this class. I have to learn how to read palms. So I feel as though I am a forever student.
Mm.
I'm interested in people, and I just feel as though it just naturally happened along the way. So my journey kind of unfolded, and then I started doing readings. I started, reading for people. I did a lot of events and parties and things like that. But I felt as though I hit a point where people wanted more from
Mm.
me, more than I could just tell them from the cards, which is when I went back and decided to get a coaching certification.
Mm.
So I'm a certified coactive coach. And what that means is that I am not in charge. It's like we are co-leaders of this session. We are co-leaders of this experience that we are having. And I create a safe container so we can, just be very honest and talk about all the things that you wish were happening, who your future self is, all those good things. And so that happened in around 2018. I began my coaching certification, and then COVID hit.
Mm.
And COVID was kind of because I worked in corporate for a very long time. I worked in corporate sales, and tarot and all these parties and events, and this is what I did in my free time. It
Mm.
wasn't my main gig. And what happened was when COVID hit, I do have 3 kids, and having 3 kids in Zoom school,
Mm.
that will make you make a decision.
Yeah.
I mean, I really couldn't leave the house. We were kind of homebound, and I knew what my boss wanted from me, which was he wanted me to sell and to
Yeah.
give the 100% that I had given him in the past 22 years that I had worked for him. But I
Wow.
knew that at that point, I just couldn't do it.
Mm.
And so I made the decision to take a leap. So I left my corporate job, and I began this coaching practice that wove in tarot and astrology and numerology.
Mm.
So I became this intuitive life coach. And I started working with women, a lot of women who were struggling with who they were.
Yeah.
Like, I think that what happens is a lot of times as we become moms and we get into our careers and we start having to give all of our time away, we forget who that little girl was. We forget where all the things that used to light us up when we
Mm.
were younger, and we slide farther and farther down our own list of priorities.
Yeah.
So we are taking care of everyone else before we are taking care of ourselves. And what happens is that self that we maybe had an idea of who that person was for a time slips farther and farther. It's kind of like sand in our hands. It's like we're losing who we are. And this led me eventually, just last year, to write a book. And
Mm.
so I wrote a book called The Way Within:
Mm.
Igniting Your Intuition Using Sacred Tools. And the sacred tools that I talk about in my book are tarot, numerology, and charms. And in the book, woven in are my stories, but how I came back to myself, because I have my own, like you said, what has your journey been? My journey has been that I gave myself away until COVID kind of very serendipitously
Yeah.
showed up and said, you've just hit the fork.
Hmm.
take it.
Hmm.
And so that's been my story. And it hasn't, I feel as though every day, like I've started speaking recently, I do some teaching, like, and I always do one-on-ones. Like I love working one-on-one as I did with you. I love working with retreats. I like working in small groups. I like working in big groups. I just love working with people and I love connecting and just hearing their stories. I also consider myself a storyteller
Hmm.
because I want to help you. Like I consider myself a bringer of the light. I'm here to shine a light on maybe a path, and maybe you're at a fork.
Yeah.
And maybe I can help you decide which path you're going to make the decision, but I will, help shine some light as to which way might be the best way for you.
Yeah, and we were talking before we hit record, and I think a really important piece to kind of bring into this, which does help when we have a coach, but when we have these forks in the road, or when we have these moments in our life that are really pivot points, which I don't know about you listening, but like I've had very specific pivot points in my life, and I can call them all out to you. Um, one of the biggest things that I've learned is that it's in those moments where I have reached out to create my support system, which has been in the form of therapists, coaches, guides, healers, so many different people that have really helped aid me. But what I love about the similarity between your work and my work is that it really is rooted in learning how to trust yourself. And what I have learned in those pivot points of my life is I've developed that trust muscle with myself,
It
and
is
I
a
really,
muscle.
it is a muscle. But that's the first question is how, well, first of all, why? Why do we not trust ourselves? Because that's a huge topic of conversation that I think is really of big interest, at least in my audience, is like, how do I strengthen my intuition? Which really comes down to that question of like, why, how do I learn how to trust myself? But let's start with, before we get to the how, let's start with the why. Like, why do we not trust ourselves? And where do you see that showing up with your clients?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why we don't trust ourselves. One of the reasons is our conditioning. So when we are
Mm.
younger, like maybe you have a feeling for something, but maybe an adult that you trusted in your life said, no, 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 that's not how you do it. Or no, don't think like that. Or like, so you did it, first of all, because when you were maybe at an age where you didn't know that you could think, that you could say, no, we are going to do it my way,
Mm.
that you could just kind of go against the current and speak for yourself. So the first one is our the conditioning and the childhood and the upbringing that we had. And then, also it's like our learned behaviors. So I like to call out people pleasing. So, for example, if I know that I want to go in a certain direction, but I know that if I choose that direction, then either I will no longer be able to move in the same, like, I think that like I look at like children, like when my daughters were in high school, like everyone had the same haircut. They all
Yeah.
had this beautiful long hair, and it's like they all want to be the same. They
Yeah.
don't want to stand out as different. It's like they all wanted the same sneakers. They all wanted the same, like everything they had the same. They all had the same, they have the same manicures. It's like all these things. It's like they want to be the same because they don't want to stand out as like the red thumb. They don't
Mm.
want to stand out as something so different because if you are different, then you're kind of like, are you the black sheep? Are you the outsider? And we are so, it's so ingrained in who we are to be accepted, to be part of the group, to find somewhere where you can quote unquote belong. And to
Mm.
not belong is like one of the worst things that you can think about, especially
Yeah.
at a younger age.
Yeah.
So we train ourselves to go along, to be like, you know what? This may not be my first choice, but I'm just going to nod my head and smile because if I don't, maybe I won't get invited back again. Maybe
Right.
somebody will talk bad about me, or maybe they won't like me, or, it's like you come up with all these ideas. So I kind of lump all of that into the idea of people pleasing.
Mm.
But, and then there is the whole idea of perfectionism. Like, the reason why it's like, well, if I were, if I were to do it in an ideal way, if I were to, these perfect people that I see either on social media or whoever you hold on a pedestal, whoever you consider to be that ideal, well, they don't do it this way.
Mm.
But the thing is, it's like so this muscle that you were talking about, this intuition muscle, it's about strengthening your ability to make decisions that honor who you are and what you need in that moment. And I consider intuition to be not the loudest voice in the room, but the truest.
Mm.
And often it's quiet. Intuition
Yeah.
doesn't shout, it doesn't rush, it's very subtle.
Yeah.
It's steady, and it sits outside of all the noise and the urgency.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we want to be accepted and fit in, it's not our intuition that's pushing us, it's our anxiety or our fear.
Hmm.
And so I do believe it's really important for you to understand what each of these two feels like so
Hmm.
you can become more familiar with it, so you can learn to embrace the flow instead of running into the current that you are swimming
Mm.
against.
Well, and you said something very interesting and really powerful. It's you build your intuition when you honor what you want, your desires, what your body is asking for, when you honor ultimately yourself. And I think that's where I've definitely found myself in the past, where I have been listening to that anxiety mind, or that, listening to the crowd, and then you're asking yourself and fighting so hard of like, why am I not trusting myself, or why am I not building my intuition? And oftentimes I have found that when we ask that question of why do I not trust myself, it's because we are dishonoring what we know is true, what we know, like that quiet voice is saying. And to add a little bit of human design spin on that, because we've talked
Yeah.
about this in our call. What makes a manifesting generator is, and as well as a generator, you have a defined sacral center. And your sacral center, very similar to your sacral chakra, is like that center of power. It's your energy battery. It's your center of life. I mean, like your center of creation as a woman. And we have our sacral center is kind of like when we're talking about trusting your gut. And in human design, like we can get into it and pull it apart. Your spleen is more of your instinct, your intuition, your gut is more of your sacral center. But when we have a defined sacral center, we have this power, this superpower to really have these like in the moment, yes, no decision, yes, no reactions or responses. I shouldn't say reaction, response of your body. And I know you and I talked about this because you're an emotional authority, which is a little bit different. We have some caveats here, but you still have a defined sacral center. And I'm a sacral authority. And one of the things that I really talk to my clients about that are sacral authorities is like trust that immediate yes, no. And that doesn't mean all the time, because I think there's work that needs to be done before we get to that like moment of trust, but it's trusting it in little opportunities too. So like maybe you don't feel like you can say no to the crowd or the friend group when there's something else that you want to do, but like everyone else is saying yes, and especially as kids, right? I mean, that's like so true. But maybe it's trusting your intuition in smaller ways, or trusting your gut in smaller ways, until you build that muscle where you have the confidence of like, this is a yes for me, this is a no for me. Because I also think that it's really hard in the beginning to navigate, like you're saying, that anxiety mind or the actual intuition. And we have different languaging, but like we're saying the same thing.
It's
And
very
how
similar. There's
can
a lot of
I,
overlap.
right? Like, how can I decipher what is the anxiety mind? And I do definitely agree. I mean, I agree. It's the like the quiet, it's when we slow down. And that's the other thing I think when we have that conversation that I would like to add. When I don't know how to trust myself, you got to slow down, because we're going so fast, we're not even thinking about it.
Right. It's so true.
Yeah.
The thing when I think about what intuition, it's like intuition is very gentle and
Yeah.
it's not demanding your attention. It's always there, like just below the surface if you're willing to connect to it, which is a lot about like the somatics. It's like
Yep.
a lot of times when people come to me and they're like, well, I don't know how to make a decision. And I was like, your decision can be felt in your body.
Yeah.
Like you
Again.
can feel a yes or you can feel a no.
Yeah.
And I have even like a little, I can give you like a little thing that I sometimes do with clients
Please.
because so what I do is and I can do this with you right now. So do you have something that is always a yes to you? Like, do you love the beach? Do you love ice cream? Do you love sunsets? Like, what is the thing that lights you
All
up and is always a yes?
all of the above. But yes, I mean always the beach. I'm definitely like anything in nature is always a yes for me.
Okay, so like the beach and nature, tell me, how does that feel in your body when I mention the beach or
Mm.
nature? Like you just put a big smile on your face for those that are
Mm.
listening.
I
What
mean,
does
you
it
can
feel
tell
like?
like I'm sitting forward, like my leg was just crossed and I just uncrossed my leg and I like lean forward. I put my hand on my face because I'm leaning forward and yeah, I got a big smile. I feel lighter and I always like it's like my body physically is pulled forward when we just started talking about that.
Okay, okay. Now I'm just going to throw something at you that I know that you probably don't love as much as the beach, but imagine that your neighbor came and knocked on your door right now and said, I have a huge stinky bag of garbage and it's too big and it's too heavy for me. Will you come and take out my big stinky bag of garbage for me? So
Mm,
it's like, how does that feel?
mm. It feels like pitter patters in my heart. I'm like, no, thank you.
Exactly. Okay.
Don't
So
make me say
imagine,
yes because I'm trying to be nice and I'll say yes.
but I don't mean it, right?
Right.
So the beach, how your body felt when you said the beach, that is what a yes feels like in your body.
Mm,
And how your body felt when I started talking about the garbage, that is what no feels like.
yeah.
So when someone approaches you and asks you whether they want to dump some extra work on you or they want to know if you want to go out on Tuesday night or they want like whatever it is, before you say yes or no, I want you to pause and think, how does this make me feel? Like
Mm,
just the hearing about this, is this the beach or is
mm,
this the garbage? And that alone is your answer. Is it a yes? Or is it a no? Because I really believe that if we were just a little bit aware, we could save so much time not doing the things that we feel obligated to do, but we are truly
yeah.
not invested in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's my trick. So
I
so
love
listeners,
that.
find your yes.
Yeah.
And you can use the stinky garbage from your neighbor if you want as the no, but and then think about the things that you've said yes to recently and
Hmm.
how have they felt for you?
Yep.
And
Does
then
it
if
actually
it,
drain your energy? That's one of my questions that I always ask. Like, you'll notice again when you're thinking about it, even, but obviously also when you're doing it, do you feel drained and like do you feel like you have less energy, less capacity? We can do things that we love that bring us energy when we're really tired. And that's something to kind of navigate, but you'll feel the things that are a no. At least I do, and especially like again, I would argue from a human design perspective, especially generators and manifesting generators, because you have that defined sacral center, but you'll feel this weight or this tiredness or this yeah, like lack of capacity. Whereas when I do things that light me up, like I could go to the beach tired, right? And like I would still do it and I would still make it a priority because it brings me energy. I feel filled up after the beach. I feel filled up after I podcast, even though I'm tired walking into it or I've had a really busy day podcasting and getting to share my truth and my insights and my knowledge and then learn and hear other people's insights and excitement and passion about what they do, that lights me up. But yeah, I mean going to take out like some trash or I don't know, I'm trying to think of like things that I do that really don't bring me energy. But it's like it's different than a physical energy. Like going to the gym, right? You're going to feel tired after the gym. That I'm not saying that that doesn't light you up though. Like, but maybe if you feel very, very tired, then you're just not doing the right exercise for you. Like, and that's the other thing too that I wanted to kind of loop back all the way from the beginning when you said I walked into that tarot class and it's just like angels singing. I'm like, oh, this is it. Like that, find that. Find that thing that lights you up because you will find it, and you have to experience different things. And that's why like I like having conversations with people like you because you and I have very, very similar outcomes that we're achieving or we're serving our community with, but you're using tarot, astrology, numerology. I'm using breath work, human design, and cycle alignment. And it's one of them is going to resonate with listeners, or experience is going to be higher with somebody for one thing. And that's my invitation, is to explore until you find that you're like, oh my God, this is it. That's human design for me. Like I did astrology first actually, and I love astrology, you know I do. But human design, it was like just that thing, and you can't put your mouth on it, but it's just that thing that really clicked for me. And you can find that in honestly every area of your life. We're talking about work, jobs, living
Yeah, and,
situations,
and
like
these are all tools, and I feel
tools.
as though instead of, I mean, it's so easy to fall into routines where,
Yeah.
we are watching, we get into our little remote control with the Netflix and
Mhm.
everything, and we get into these routines. And it's important to, if you want to make change, if you want to bring, new light and new knowledge and just new perspectives into your life, this is a great time to just explore. These are all
Mhm.
tools. And once again, it's like how you use them is up to you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there is no rule book. And I feel as though people,
Yeah.
I teach beginner people how to read tarot cards. And I understand that every tarot card, like there are 78 cards in a traditional tarot deck, and people get very intimidated because it's like, oh my God, there's 78 meanings that I have to remember. And then
Hmm.
like some people read reversals in tarot, which means like the if the card shows up upside down, and then that's 78 more meanings that you have to
Yeah.
remember. And they're like, that's overwhelming. But I'm like, you know what? What if we just read the cards using color? What if we just read the cards
Mm.
with, symbolism and images that you
Wow.
see that have meaning to you? Like you can get meaning from things and you don't have to use it the same way that everyone does.
Mm. Can we talk about tarot for a minute? Because you introduced me to something that I had never heard of tarot, and it's actually related to your birth date, right?
Hmm.
What is the actual word for it? Do you know
Birth
what
cards.
your birth cards? Yeah. And you have two, right?
Well, in one case you have three, but
Okay.
and so the tarot deck has two types of cards.
Mhm.
So there are four suits, like any normal card deck has four suits, but instead of having diamonds, hearts, clubs, and spades, most tarot decks have pentacles, swords, cups, and wands. And
Mhm.
then same thing, there's an ace through the 10, and then there's a court. Once again, the court in a normal deck is Jack, Queen, King. The court in a tarot deck is Page, Knight, Queen, King.
Mhm.
But then that's the minor arcana. Then they have 22 additional cards, which makes the tarot deck a little bit different and unusual. And those, the big secrets, major arcana, those are all the title cards. That's the Emperor, the Empress, the Magician, the Wheel of Fortune, all of those cards. And that is where we got your birth cards from. So
Mhm.
we're not using the four suits. We're only using the major arcana. And what we do is we took your birthday and we added the single digits of your birthday. So like for example, if today was your birthday, we would add 3 plus 2 plus 4, 5. Today's the
I don't
25th.
know. I was going with
3
it.
plus 2 plus 5 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6. We would add all the numbers together. And then what we want to do is we want to get it down to a number that's 22 or below.
Mhm.
So yeah, so we came to two numbers and then we add it together again. So there are usually two numbers. One is a double digit, and one is a single digit. I don't know if you want to talk about your specific cards,
Yeah, we
but
can, please.
that's how we get it. And actually this was one of the things that like literally blew me away when I first started reading tarot and I learned about the birth cards because there were like I had feelings and all this, a whole landscape going on within me that I did not know how to put into words.
Mm.
And my birth cards were like exactly that. Like they were saying to me, you're right on time. Like we're giving you permission. I felt like learning my birth cards was like getting the Willy Wonka golden ticket. It gave me like I felt like I had like once I had that, I was then I realized, wow, I need to do this work because it was so powerful. So go ahead, talk about your experience.
Yeah, it's what I've never heard that this introduction before or even having birth cards, so that was really wild. I have heard of numerology before, which we could also talk about in a minute. But I love learning new things. So to have the birth cards was really interesting to me. And that's coming from someone that doesn't know tarot extremely well because, like you were just saying, that it feels overwhelming to me. And I think eventually maybe I'll get into tarot more deeply, but it felt very approachable because one, it's only two cards or three, like you said, in some cases. And obviously you were reading it to me, so I didn't have to do a lot of like inferencing myself, but to learn about the energy of the card or the energy of the cards and to learn about, in tarot, what kind of there's similarities to human design, and there's like some shadow sides, and then there's gifts, and learning both of those and everything. I mean, I feel like the whole time we were talking, I was like, yeah, that checks out. That's me. Like same with numerology. I'm like, of course, that's me, absolutely. Be like a one in numerology, and then being in my sixth year, but. With tarot is really interesting because I always associate tarot in like kind of asking questions for the moment that you're in and or kind of projecting like this some ideas of the future, things that are going like predicting things that are going to happen. But this version of tarot is almost kind of like looking back of like this is just kind of your natural essence. It's very similar to human design. This is just who you are, and then here's some invitations around it. And then here's some things that maybe are just life lessons that are going to continue to come up for you. And what I do like about tarot is it's open to interpretation. So it's like what really resonates with you. And then you can also learn things. I mean, same with, I guess, everything, because what I was going to say is you can learn things from each tarot person that you work with, which is also similar to human design though, because I'm like, actually work with other people, like get a reading from me and then go listen to podcasts and go follow this other human design page because how they're going to share it is going to be in different languaging. So I feel that about tarot as well. Like the interpretation is just a little bit different for everyone, but you're going to get the same, meat and potatoes. But
It's
super.
similar. It's funny because when I first started learning tarot, my first because I did have two teachers, and my first teacher um, read from a deck called the Mythic Tarot,
Mm,
which and this deck was really cool. It was all based in like Greek mythology. There were stories with each card. It was really really interesting, and she was. And that was the teacher that I came into the room with, and was just like, she was a powerhouse of a teacher, and
mm,
she was unbelievably psychic. Like the things that she knew and the way that she taught, she was just magic.
yeah.
And but the way that she taught, like she would teach for like 6 weeks and then she'd take a few months off. And then she'd teach for 6 weeks and then she'd take a few months off.
Wow.
And so it felt very stop and go to me. And
Yeah.
I'm hungry to learn. I'm a very eager student and
Yeah.
I'm a lifelong student. And so I looked and I found another teacher who taught every Monday night.
Mm.
And this was it was like 48 weeks of the year. So with the exception of like, the week of Christmas and the week of Thanksgiving, it was like maybe just a couple of weeks it wouldn't teach. And what they would do is they would go through the entire tarot deck
Wow.
in one year, but every year it would be different. So it was like this year we're going to look at color. Next year we're going to look at symbols. Then we're going to do the uprights. Then we're going to do the reversals. Then we're going to talk about the titles of the cards. So it was like every year it was like we were entering through the front door, the side door, the back door. It was like I just kept on seeing the cards in a different way. And honestly, I went to class every Monday night or as many Monday nights as I could. And for 8 years.
Wow.
I went for 8 years. And that is why I know the tarot upside down, inside out,
Yeah.
sideways. It's like I can read a card, but and still this is one of the most powerful ways to read it. So anyway, so my original teacher started me with the mythic deck. And
Mm.
when I started working with my second teachers that did the every Monday night, they said, we read the universal weight, which is a different deck, a very different deck.
Mm.
And I had already been reading the Mythic for about a year. And my teacher said to me, if you're going to study with us, you have to kind of forget the Mythic. You have to read the Universal Weight. So I said yes to his face. And then when I went home, I still worked with the Mythic because I loved it.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I was working for him maybe like 2 months, and he approached me and he said to me, you're coming to class. You're a very eager student. He said, but I noticed that you're like, considering how much work you're doing, I don't feel like you are making the strides forward that I would have thought you would. He
Mm.
said, will you be honest with me if I ask you a question? And I knew what he was going to ask me if I was reading the
Oh
mythic deck when I
no.
wasn't there. And the answer to that was yes. So he said to me, you need to make the transfer. You have to commit to this deck. Like you have to commit. And then I did. I
Mm.
did, but I feel as though sometimes when I read the cards, still like little like sparks from my original teacher from the mythic come up. People will be like, how did you get that meaning in the card? I'm like, it's probably from the myth. It's like I have
Yeah.
these ingrained things that I learned when I was with her those first couple of years. But like you were saying, it's like in order to know these things, in order to learn these things, you need to commit
Mm.
to a practice. You need to commit to learning it, to knowing it. And I feel as though how I know all these things and how I can do all these amazing things with the card is because I consistently showed up and
Mm.
did the learning and did the work. So whether it's human design or whether you're doing somatic work or breath work or astrology or whatever it is, this is a great way for you to get to know yourself. It's like this is a way for you to kind of like open the door, like the door to you, and kind of get the answers to the things that maybe have been question marks in your mind that
Mm.
you can't fully understand about yourself. So I'm thrilled that you felt that way.
Mm.
And that's exactly what the tarot has been for me. Like you can use it for prediction, you can use it to answer questions, although very often I answer questions with questions because I don't want to be the one that makes the decisive answer. I
Yeah.
have a client of mine, he says to me, do you always answer questions with questions? And I said, yeah, I think I do.
Yeah. Pretty
But
sure.
once again, it's like it is telling you your nature. It is telling you, your traits, your characteristics, your strengths, your challenges,
Yeah.
and where the lessons need to come from. So
Yeah.
sometimes how you engage in a certain situation may not be the same as one of your peers because
Yep.
you come from a completely different numerological and tarot structure background.
Yeah, well, let's give an example because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I
Yeah.
think you said that another cool thing is that we can use a tarot card for like this year 2026. There's a
Yeah.
tarot card and it happens to be the same as one of my tarot cards. It's a Wheel of Fortune. So let's use that as an example, just to give a little bit more like palpable of how can I, what are you, maybe somebody that hasn't really worked with tarot, an example of this year, the energy of this year from the perspective of the Wheel of Fortune card.
Sure, sure. So, first of all, how we got the Wheel of Fortune as the card of the year is so we are in the year 2026.
Yeah.
So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the numbers 2026 together,
Hmm.
and that gets us the number 10. So, as I mentioned, the major arcana has cards 0 to 21. So, as long as there is a number within there, we can assign one of those numbers to the energy of what we're feeling right now. So, this is the number 10 is the Wheel of Fortune. So, this is a 10 year, this is a Wheel of Fortune year. So, when we hit January 1, of 2026, we entered our Wheel of Fortune year. And first of all, the energy of the Wheel of Fortune, it is a wheel, obviously, and the wheel never stops moving.
Mhm.
And I feel as though that is one of the the foundational components of the card is that time never stops.
Mm.
It's constantly moving forward. And even though you personally may be feeling stuck or feeling like you're not moving forward, time is still ticking.
Mm.
But it's also about cycles and waiting for the right time. So that makes me think of like having a strategy. Like sometimes you don't want to just leap before you look. Sometimes you want to like plan out when you're going to make your move. And that's also about how it's really important to know like what cycle you are in. Like, are you in, which is why it's very good to not only look at what the universal year is, so the entire planet. We are all in the year 2026, so we are all in a Wheel of Fortune year. And the
Yeah.
Wheel of Fortune is a movement year. But think about the wheel almost like a Ferris wheel. The Ferris wheel, as you ride the wheel, sometimes you're at the top and you have a great view of everything that's going on. But you don't stay at the top forever. What happens is you have to come down. And when you come down, so it's like life has its ups and life has its downs. But I do feel in a Wheel of Fortune year, there will be lessons that you learn, there will be wins, there will be experiences where you're like, maybe I could have tried that and done that better. But sometimes what happens in a Wheel of Fortune year is we get thrust into the spotlight, maybe in something that we were planning to do, but maybe in an unexpected way. The Wheel of Fortune can be an unexpected year. It can be a year of great highs
Mm.
and and great learning as well. And what I feel as though between the highs and the lows, it does usually work out that there are more highs than lows in a Wheel of Fortune year. But it is really important to know that it is up to you for you to create these experiences in your life. And it is the planet of Jupiter, and Jupiter is about expansion. So Wheel of Fortune is a great year to expand, to look for ways that you can grow and create more abundance in your life or manifest the things that it is that you would like to do. But it is a very action year. So what happens with the Wheel of Fortune is it probably started off, I mean, I know that we're also in a fire horse year
Yeah.
now, which is also kind of like a horse bolting out of the barn. It's a very fast moving action, but the
Mm.
Wheel of Fortune is also a quick moving year. And I
Mm.
do agree, this year has been moving relatively quickly. So, and opportunities may come to you quickly. It's like you may have no opportunities, and all of a sudden you have like four things that are like all trying to get your attention at the same
Yeah.
time. And and Wheel of Fortune can also be a year where projects that maybe you had ideas about or started maybe at a time in the past, and then maybe you started writing a book, and then you're like, you know what? Not now. And like you took that half-written book and you put it in a drawer. And now here a few years later, you're like, you know what? Maybe now. Maybe now's the time
Mm.
for the book. So it's a time when you maybe started something and you realize that the timing wasn't right and the time has now come back.
Mm.
And so it's a time sometimes when you may pick up where you left off, or you may reconnect with old colleagues or friends, or like old connections from the past come to the present and help maybe move you forward
Mm.
in the energy of this year. So
Thank
that's some of the
you.
things that I see about the Wheel of Fortune. But yes,
I
you
love
can
that.
use it as yearly energy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so just cool. You're giving me a lot of new introductions and insights on tarot, which hopefully you're giving to everyone listening as well. Like really cool insights on tarot, which is fun to kind of play around with. And even people, I imagine if you're studying tarot, kind of just studying the cards, like focus on the Wheel of Fortune for a minute and see what comes up for you and your interpretation or your research, because that's a really fun way to focus on the cards. I think invitation there
Or even
for
just
my
look at the
human design.
picture and see what, like pick one image in the card
Yeah.
that catches your attention
Yeah.
and get a message from that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, which is really cool. Like I like to play it that way as well. So the last piece of your, I mean, we didn't really touch much on numerology, but that's okay. The last piece of your business is charms. And
Yes.
I would love for you to introduce that because I thought that it would be really fun for us to pull a charm on our call today, but anyone listening has no idea what we're talking about, so let's intro it first.
So, for those that are not able to see it on the screen, so I have these charm kits that I've created, and they're just little tins. Like you can literally stick this in your bag and take it out, and it's going to be like just fun in a tin. It's really fun. So, essentially, what charms are they're symbols
Mm.
that are out in the world. They're everyday symbols. There is, and I have about maybe 100 charms in my kit here. I sell my charms on my site. And so I'm just going to show you a couple of charms instead of talking about it. But sometimes the reason why I call them a charm is because all of them have like a little circle, like a little loop where you can put it on a necklace. So it's like
Oh,
you think
fun.
about a charm bracelet or a charm that like a pendant that you wear around your neck. Like I know that you were saying, Hannah, that you wear a tent. I don't know if you're
Hmm.
wearing it
I
today.
am all the time.
And so why don't you so Hannah's wearing a tent, which is exactly what it is that one of these charms is. So tell me, what does the tent mean to you?
Yeah, I think I talked about this on a podcast a long time ago because I've worn this for at least 3 years now, but the tent is my tribe. So it actually has a huge background that I got this necklace when I went through a breakup and I was actually in Jersey City when I lived outside of New York, and I realized I didn't have any friends in Jersey City that were really close friends. I have amazing friends in North Carolina, Colorado, now New Hampshire, but I didn't have any in New Jersey, and my family's all in New Hampshire, so I didn't have my tribe around me. And then I just lost my best friend, my partner, my boyfriend. So that I chose to buy and wear this necklace to remind myself that I am building my tribe and that I'm attracting my people. And I wear this every day, and I've attracted incredible, incredible people. And that is the meaning of the charm for me. It's community, it's tribe, it's my people.
Exactly. And that's exactly how the charms work.
Yeah.
And if you are, and this is a great system if you are just starting out and you want something fun, because you can do this with friends. You can be like the little party trick and everything like that. So I have things exactly like that. I'm wearing a heart around my neck. Hannah has a tent. So in my charm kit, I'll just show you like one or two charms from here before I pull one. So the first charm I'm going to show you is, is
Oh, a
it's a
little
crown.
clown.
And so what we're
I like
looking for,
that.
these are just, I'm just showing you how these are all everyday items. This is a bicycle. Speaking of the gym, this is like a dumbbell.
Ah, I love that.
And I'll just show you one more. This is a ladder.
Cool.
So how the charms work and how we get a message. So what I'm going to do for us right now, so I'll pull
Mhm.
the charm and then it's a few questions and I'll ask Hannah and then I'll add to it. So
Yeah.
what we do is I don't look like the charm doesn't, I don't pick the charm picks me. So I'm
Yeah.
not looking, I am just digging around in here and I am getting okay. So can you see what
Oh,
this
wow.
is?
It looks like like an Egyptian pharaoh.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, like an
Or
okay.
a queen.
So, yeah. So, okay, so the first question is, so if I'm doing the charm reading, I am not feeding you answers. So just like you identified the tent. So tell me, the first question is, what is this item?
Can I name it actually?
Yeah, you can, whatever it is, I will accept any answer with the exception of I don't know. So you can name it.
It looks like a like an Egyptian pharaoh or like a queen to me. Either one. Maybe we'll go with like a pharaoh because he has a very high headdress.
Okay,
And it's
perfect.
gold, which is interesting. I didn't know that you had gold and silver. How
I have a couple of bronze ones too. I've got a mix of things, but I
Oh,
have
yay.
it's mostly silver, but I have a mix
Yeah.
of things. So imagine I've never seen this before. I've never seen anything like this before,
Mm.
and I don't know what it means. I don't know what it symbolizes. I don't know anything about this. And so, how would you describe this if I needed to understand this? And you've been chosen of all the people in the world to explain it to me.
Mm.
I will accept any answer you give. If you don't have any idea, then make it up. I'll accept that too.
Well, if we're going with the pharaoh, I would say it represents um, like nobility or royalty or a position of power. I think it's really interesting because we pulled a charm and the ones that you've showed me were all silver. So I think it's really cool that this one is gold, which to me is like even deeper, like more highly elevated, than silver. Like, I guess we traditionally gold is more expensive. So whatever this charm being gold seems like higher to me. Um
Ah.
Pharaoh, I mean, if we're going with a pharaoh, it's a time in the history of Egypt that's do they even still have pharaohs? I don't think so. So it's like a historical figure. Um
Does this person have any traits or characteristics?
He has a very large head dress or crown or head working, and around his neck. It looks like maybe he has a necklace and maybe some interesting ears on it, or maybe that's the headdress too.
So
Yeah.
is this person friendly? Like what are what kind of
Ooh.
personality traits does this person have?
Ooh. Maybe a little what I thought was pretentious. This is me making up my own stuff. But
No,
maybe a
that's
little
okay.
pretentious because royalty, right? Like you think that you're better than everyone, maybe. And maybe you are. So you have a right to think that. But yeah, like you're elevated in society. So I think especially historically is kind of like nose up, right? That's what I
Okay, you're gonna
got.
love this next question then. How are you like um this pharaoh or
Yeah.
this Egyptian ruler?
Oh my gosh. Well, that sounds all terrible what I said.
No, but maybe, so
Oh,
you can add on it.
can I tell you something wild, which maybe
Tell me
does
what came
not
to you.
resonate
Yes.
with other
Yes.
people? But I did a astrology reading, and this guy does more like past life regression. He's also a hypnotherapist, so past life, he'll look at your chart and how I don't know enough about astrology, but he said maybe you were of like a lineage or you were like royalty in a past life. So that's actually what I just thought of when I was talking about royalty and
Wow.
like,
So
how does
maybe
that
this was
relate?
a former version of you.
Maybe it's me. I also do love gold. You see my gold ring, so I definitely align with the color charm. I think that relates to
Yeah,
me.
you were really drawn to the gold. So,
Hmm.
so then the last question, and then I'll add my own insights on
Hmm.
this. But the last question is, imagine that this figure could speak, that it
Mm.
came to life here for this purpose. And I want to know what message or like fortune or, kind of like little piece of golden nugget, uh, does this charm want to deliver to you today? What does it want you to know?
When you were saying that, the first thing that like popped into my mind was don't forget your power. Don't
I
forget how
love that.
powerful you are.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you can see, I'm going to put the charm very close to the screen, but
It's
I
color.
see in the crown, do you see there's like these holes
Yeah.
are hearts?
Their
Do you see
hearts. I
that?
just noticed that when you said that.
And so what I really see is this figure is a very benevolent figure. I see this figure as a very loving and generous figure. And I feel as though this figure moves through the world. And when I keep talking about this figure, I'm talking about you because all of these charms are mirrors. So when we talk about it, we're talking about you. But I feel as though this figure moves through the world with poise and grace.
Mm.
And even though they are in a position of elevation, maybe they're in an elevated position and maybe they have more resources or access to more than just the average person, which, you are a teacher, you are a leader, you are, starting a movement here. And uh, that does not mean that you consider yourself to be above or
Mm.
any different. Like you move through life, you breathe air, you do all the things that we need to do in order to live. But I feel as though it's you have, because of what you know and what you've learned, you have a an elevated intelligence of a feeling for what people need, and you're able to provide it.
Hmm. Hmm. You know what also came to me is like you are speaking such loving and positive words about this figure slash mirroring me. And mine, speaking of like, oh, maybe they think they're, outlet, like I felt like my definition was more with slightly more negative connotations. And so it came to me was also be kinder to yourself.
Be kinder to
Love
yourself. And
yourself more, show yourself more love and have less negative self-talk.
I love that it's true because sometimes we don't even realize, like sometimes, and I'm sure that you do
Yeah.
this too, like when I'm working with a client, they may say something to me that I'm like, I don't know if they realize how that came out. And I'll
Yeah.
repeat, like I had a client that said, he doesn't make good decisions. He's not a
Yeah.
good decision maker. And I said, really? I said, is that what you tell yourself? And he
Wow.
said, what? I said, that you don't make good decisions? He said, did I say that? I said, yeah, you
Wow.
just said that, kind of thing. It's like sometimes we
Wow.
don't even realize that we say things.
Yeah.
And that's the conversation that's going on in our head. That's our script. So
Yeah.
imagine if you change that and now you said to yourself, I'm poised, I'm
Mm.
graceful,
Yeah.
I'm resourceful, and I'm, generously sharing my gifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you
And
are.
what a cool tool of these charms and the same, I mean, of working with you or working with a coach or a guide, but the charms, what a cool way to hold up that mirror every day. And I love your questions. Do you have your questions like in the charm box? Like, what if we buy the charms and then we don't remember what questions you ask?
No, I send a PDF with it.
Okay.
And but also I don't have a lot of descriptions because each of the charms has a story, and the
Yeah.
story is what you put with it.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have one charm. I'm going to see if I can. I did a reading. I'll just give you a quick 401. So I did a reading at like a party, and
Mm.
maybe there was a little bit of drinking going on. And anyway, a woman sat down with me, and she stuck her hand in my charms, and she pulled out this
Oh,
charm. Can you see it?
yeah, it's a lighthouse.
Okay, I see a lighthouse too. So anyway, she sits down, she pulls this charm, and she starts to cry. So I was like, what's going on? So she says to me, oh my gosh, I can't believe I pulled this charm. She says, my whole life, she says, I'm the one that speaks up for the underdog. I'm the one that, I can't just sit back and let things happen. She goes, I have to defend the people that can't speak for themselves. She said, I'm the whistleblower. I'm the whistleblower. She goes, I can't believe I got the whistle. And she jumped up and she gave me a hug and she ran off. And the thing is, that's why I said to you, what is this item? Because it
Wow.
doesn't matter what I see. It
Yeah.
matters what the person who pulled the charm saw. Because if I said to her, hold on a second, that's not a whistle. I mean, it would have completely changed the vibe of the
Yeah.
experience. And she got the message that she needed to get from it. So
Wow.
I feel as though the charms, like it's not my job to say, this is what this means.
Yeah.
I want you to look at the charm and say, oh, this means strength, or oh, this means, be kinder to yourself, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. The message comes from you.
Mm.
And the charms are just the kind of like it's just greasing the wheels towards the
Mm.
story. So
Mm.
there you
I
go.
love that. Thank you for that story. That's funny, but it is true. I mean, again, it's just this mirror that we can hold up. And what am I, just like tarot or oracle cards to me too. It's like, what am I meant to see today? And you use that symbol to spark this train of thought and reflection and reflection of what you're meant to see today or in this situation or whatever.
Exactly, exactly.
So speaking of these charms, where can people find you? Where can people stay connected? Where can people find the charms? Where do you hang out the most?
Well, always my website is great, which is my name, and my charms just there's a divination charms link. I should probably I'll share that with you so they can get directly to
Yeah,
it.
I'll put it in the bio or the
And Instagram is great. Like so people you can message me on my site, you can message me on Instagram. Those are the two places that I tend to be most. And I'd love to, hear what people think. Feel free to DM me or reach out. I'm always, as I said, I'm so curious about people and
mm,
their stories and what brought them to where they are right now. So I can,
mm,
find out how I can maybe be a support for them.
love that. Okay, last question. This might be a little repetitive, but I'm curious if you have something else that comes up.
Okay.
That this is the question that I was drawn to. What is one practice that helps you come back to yourself when things feel really chaotic and or really unclear?
Well, I'm a big believer that things show up in patterns.
Hmm.
So if something happens once, that's a message. But if something happens multiple times, then it makes me stop and, scratch my head and be like, well, what's the message here? So that's why I like to, like, so every day, I have a little routine in the morning. I do a short meditation, and then I pull a tarot card and a charm.
Hmm.
And what I try to do is weave a message together from
Mm.
that. And then what I usually do is I take my charm and I leave it like on my mouse pad.
Mm.
So I am reminded of it during the day.
Wow.
And then what I do at night when I come back to it before I go to sleep is I just like review my day. I think about it and I'm like, what was the message? Like, was there anything additional that
Yeah.
I can ground myself with, that I can take with me as learning or as a lesson today? So
Mm.
I feel as though, I mean, I have a lot of other routines that I do, but if I do have to like do a bare bones because I'm very short on time, I always do the meditation and I always do the card and the charm pull because I feel as though that gives me a foundation, that gives me roots for the day.
Mm.
And then if I have an experience or something going on, I can always tap back into that
Mm.
and kind of use it as a reminder or a strength.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that idea. And thank you so much for this conversation. This was so fun. I love chatting with you always. So
Oh, it's great.
thank you for the podcast and the conversation. It was really good to have you.
Thank you. It was so lovely to see you. Yes, I love the work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Truly, your support and love is the foundation of this community and this podcast. If you find yourself in a season of life ready to explore your inner landscape deeper, or perhaps you feel like you've tried all the things and nothing has worked, here's your gentle invitation to come back home. Align and Embody is my signature coaching container that is created to explore our soma, our living wholeness. Perhaps the answers you seek truly do live within. You just need to learn the communication of your body. Align and Embody combines the 3 pillars of my business: human design, somatic breathwork, and cycle alignment. Head to the link in this description to learn more, or better yet, reach out on Instagram @_journey-to-well. I'd be honored to connect with you. Be well on this journey, my friend. Talk soon.